Good lord, ladies and gentlemen. We had Crumb's puzzle last night. We're assuming it was Crumb's puzzle that has released or concluded in the announcement of Galactic legend Ahsoka Tano. Absolutely huge, and it's definitely something that we need to talk about. Before we get started into all this business around what does Galactic legend Ahsoka Tano look like, what's going to be the requirements, etc., is it the right time? Let's also take a moment to give a round of applause for the wonderful people at CG that actually made this puzzle. It was absolutely insane. We must have been going at it for hours last night on the stream. I was up until 4 in the morning, and I was terrible at this. I could barely grasp any of it, but there are some very, very clever boffins over on the swgoh Events Discord page that are able to just break these down systematically and eventually get to that release. So not only did we get the announcement that, of course, we are getting Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano, we've also had the announcement, of course, that we are getting the first marquee character for it is going to be a Night Trooper. And this gets, like, I'll be honest, more so than me being happy about Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano. I am actually happier that we are getting Ahsoka content in general. Like, I don't think right now is the correct time for us to actually be going around and talking about Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano, not because I don't think that she's worthwhile at a Galactic Legend level. It's just that I feel like we already know we're getting an Ahsoka film in what I think is 2 years. 2 years, something like that. We know that we're getting an Ahsoka film in 2 years, so there's going to be some large amounts of character development and probably, there's going to be some display of power from Ahsoka Tano there, and from Thrawn, who's most likely going to be the GL that follows after Ahsoka Tano. So the fact that we're getting Ahsoka content, I think, is great. I've wanted it, and I actually predicted it earlier in the year. I thought it was a great time at the end. After we've got the raid out, I thought, next up, we should probably hit Ahsoka content. But my idea was not so much that we get Ahsoka content and then just look, oh, let's immediately get Ahsoka as a GL. I thought that there's enough content within the Ahsoka show that has its own self-contained legendary, or even legendary, plural, legendaries, characters that we can get. So Night Trooper is just one. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking Night Trooper, Commander Ahsoka, not Commander Ahsoka Tano, Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano. How does that work exactly? Well, we only have to take a step back and think about what about Leia? What happened with Leia? Well, we had Scout Trooper. Scout Trooper doesn't get used with Galactic Legend Leia. We've also had Nisa. Nisa doesn't get used with Galactic Legend Leia. We also had Captain Rex. Captain Rex can work with Leia, but generally speaking, he goes with Phoenix, or potentially he goes with clones, So they can absolutely release marquees that won't work with the Galactic Legend, but are a requirement. So we know that Night Trooper over here is going to be most likely the next marquee. I doubt that they would show any of the just random marquee orders, right? I love this. This is really cool. The question that I want to know, though, is what sort of faction is Night Trooper going to be in? Because you can argue that it can be some sort of Imperial Remnant team, because technically speaking, the Stormtroopers or the Night Troopers that are in these suits are reanimated Stormtroopers that were working under Thrawn, the new Thrawn that was caught, in the unknown regions where we saw in Ahsoka, right? But you can also say they are also Night Sisters. Is this going to be an expansion of the Night Sister faction? Are we also going to see the likes of Morgan Elsbeth? Are we going to see the Great Mothers? Are we going to see even more ones, like the Night Trooper version of the Death Trooper, for example? Are we going to see all of those characters come to the game? Because I feel like, the Great Mothers could just as easily be potentially a Galactic Legend for Night Sisters. We don't know yet because we don't know how they're going to interact in future mediums of Star Wars. We don't know how are they going to feature in the Ahsoka film, if at all. But at least the nest egg is there. The idea is there. Not only that, when we look at the Ahsoka series, you have to think about some of the standout characters. Obviously, it's an Ahsoka show, but it really introduced us to some amazing characters in Shin Hati and Baylan Skoll. Two characters that I think would be absolutely incredible to have in the game. Most likely as unaligned Force users, dark side ones, of course, but they would be so cool. And the thing that disappoints me a little bit is that there is a very strong potential that we don't get those characters as part of this release cadence. Now, we could. We've had 3 marquee characters already data mined. We don't know what they are, just the packs that are supposedly coming out. One of them is obviously Night Trooper. I don't think that Baylan Skoll and Shin Haiti are going to be marquees. To me, they don't feel like marquee characters. They feel like that, well, potentially Shin Haiti could be a marquee, but it feels like Baylan Skoll is at least of a legendary status. He went toe-to-toe with Commander Ahsoka Tano, I keep saying that. He went toe-to-toe with Ahsoka in battle and beat her. And we already know she's becoming a galactic legend. So Baylan Skoll is no joke. He is a strong, strong contender in the game. And it makes me, or in the game of Star Wars, I mean now. And it makes me a little bit sad to think that there is a large potential that he's not going to be introduced in this. And if he is, he might be a bit disappointing. I'm hoping that he does get released somewhere down the line, either as a conquest unit or as a standalone legendary. So who are the other characters that might be able to be requirements for new Galactic Legend Ahsoka? I have to think if we take a look at someone like Galactic Legend Leia, we essentially had one new character release and an uptick on another character and 2 flex spots. Now, I'm not a particular fan of the 2 flex spots. We have to assume that Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano is most likely going to be an unaligned light side Force user. And when we look at that, there isn't exactly a large amount of characters that fit that bill, and there's certainly not a large amount of characters that will not be stealing from other teams. So for example, new Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano is not going to take Rey because you can't have GLs on the same team. Not going to take Commander Ahsoka Tano because that's going to strip away JMK, and we know JMK without Commander Ahsoka Tano is awful. Commander Luke Skywalker, I don't see that happening. He leads the CLS team. JTR, unlikely, most likely going to be run with GL Rey. Ben Solo as well. He's kind of earmarked for GL Rey. Sia Junda, potentially could be. Cal Kestis, potentially could be. Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum, potentially. Rey Scavenger, I doubt it. Visas Mar, potentially. The only issue is all of these characters here that are potentially able to go ahead and be used with the new Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano will be stripping away other teams. If you take away Sia Junda, your Malicos team disappears. You know? Same for Cal Kestis. Your Malicos team disappears. Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum, your Malicos team gets weaker. It doesn't necessarily disappear. Visas Mar is a staple inside of a Starkiller team. Is she a complete necessity? No, but she can be used there. So it begs the question, how are we going to build a team around Ahsoka Tano, and is it going to be unaligned Force users? We know she's not a Jedi. She isn't. She says so herself. She's not a Jedi. So is it going to be a mixed light side, dark side? Because if they take Taron Malicos and throw her under Ahsoka Tano, that is going to be monstrous. Like, absolutely monstrous. So I have to feel like it's light side. And the only thing that really starts to make sense to me when we look at Ahsoka Tano as a galactic legend, if you're taking away things from the TV series, is you have to imagine that Padawan Sabine is going to be one of the marquees, and potentially a Hermit Ezra or an abandoned Ezra. The Ezra that was trapped on the planet with the Night Sisters and Thrawn. He has no lightsaber until the end, but he could potentially be two, alongside Sabine, of the characters that we see going under this new GL. The real question is Ezra an unaligned Force user? Not really. He is a Jedi. He is a Jedi. He never gave up being a Jedi. He just got trapped. He got stranded on Praxis, I think the planet's called. Something like that. And Sabine was training to become a Jedi. Now she's just a Padawan. And I imagine you can be a Padawan without being a Jedi. I'm not even sure how that works. It's just an understudy of Ahsoka right now, and she has become Force sensitive and is able to actually battle. I think she's a really cool character, and I think it'll be good to have her in the game. I'm on board with that. I'm just wondering, how are they going to flesh out this team? Who are they going to start using for this? The last thing that I will touch on, of course, is that we have one of the requirements already announced, and that's Ahsoka Tano is going to be a Relic 9 requirement. So I think what they were saying, this was the very last thing that we unearthed, I believe, as part of the puzzle, was that Ahsoka Tano is going to be a Relic 9 requirement. I'm assuming it means her, not necessarily Fulcrum and Commander Ahsoka Tano, but if both of those are also Relic 9 characters, that's going to make this GL incredibly expensive to get. Now, the last GL we had didn't require any Relic 9s, but did have 4 marquees. We had Nisa, Drogon, Captain Rex, and we had Scout Trooper, all 4 marquees required at the minimum of Relic 7. We know we've had 3 data mines, so we can assume potentially 1 more, but also at least 1 Relic 9. Now, how do I feel about a Relic 9 Ahsoka Tano? a bit iffy, truth be told. Like, she's a decent character. She's a decent character. She fits into a really strong team under JMK, and she's also a pilot, and a pilot of a fleet that has had a bit of an uptick thanks to the Marauder coming out. I'm talking about the Bad Batch's ship. It's really elevated the viability of the Negotiator fleet. So having her at Relic 9 will feed over into a more competitive fleet environment. So it's not bad, but Relic 9 is still a very steep investment. And the problem with it is sort of compounded by the fact that in just 3 or 4 days, we will have the launch of the new Naboo raid. And that has got a Relic 9 tier. Currently, a Relic 9 tier that is not worth investing until we get any more information about additional rewards. Not worth investing, but it's still there. So we're going to have to be split in our priorities here. Do we focus on the raid, or do we focus on new Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano? I don't know right now. My first impression is you should really focus on the raid to keep those benefits coming in, but if you can hit a decent box in this new raid and still get all that Mark III guild currency coming in, you should probably try and get Ahsoka Tano if you are endgame. People that still need to get other Galactic Legends right now, you shouldn't really necessarily be worrying about this new Ahsoka Tano, okay? You can get to her when you've done your other farms, or when we've got that testing in to really know how pivotal she is going to be to the meta. We don't actually know anything about her at this point. We don't know how the team works, we don't know what synergies she needs, and we don't know how effective she's going to be overall, and any additional benefits that you get from unlocking her. I'm looking at things like Jabba having Smuggler's Run 2, and Leia having the extra, the Forest Moon event. She can do an additional tier that's usually garbage and skunks me of Omicron materials. So I want to say, people, hold your horses. Let's not start investing. Certainly don't take your Ahsoka Tano to Relic 9 immediately. Maybe just go ahead and hit that favorite button, earmarker, if you're thinking about it. But until we know more, definitely hold your horses. It's really cool time to be in Galaxy Heroes right now, because I love the Ahsoka series. The characters in that are really, really cool. So having them represented in the game is going to be awesome. It's just who they're going to bring in. I mean, Morgan Elsbeth, absolutely. Bring them in. Balin and Shin, absolutely. Bring them in. Let's get Padawan Sabine. Let's get a new Ezra in the game. Why not? We can theorize about what could be other requirements. Usually it's around 15 in total. Usually you have to be level 85. There's usually one ship, and then there's like 13 or so characters that you have to take to various relic levels. How that's going to fall out, I don't know. We can say it might be some of the Phoenix characters will be required. She obviously did work with the Phoenix characters. You can say it could be General Skywalker or Jedi Knight Anakin, that sort of thing. Obviously, there is interaction there. It could be somebody like Rex, for example. They do have a direct interaction within the Ahsoka show again there. We're just going to have to wait and see. So the last thing I'll touch on is this does point to Thrawn being the next GL, all right? It does point to Thrawn being the next GL, and it's probably not going to be seen for maybe a year, maybe 6 to 8 months, I would say, potentially, before we see Thrawn. So all it means is we're going to be getting a whole slew of marquees coming in soon. We're going to need a lot of relic levels, and it's going to be pretty pricey on the energy refreshes. Now, I know people like Arnold, the big content creators out there that are sort of super endgame, 14 million GP. These are the people that are already hoarding up their energy to get this day one. I know Karth is working on it. I've seen some people in my guild that have got like 26,000 regular energy already saved up. So hopefully we'll be able to get some footage out to you very soon about how she's going to be performing. But let me know in the comments section down below, guys. Are you happy about this? What do you think about it? And what are your guesses at the upcoming marquees and the requirements for a new Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano? This has been absolutely awesome talking about it, guys. Had a real good time on the stream last night. Make sure you do swing around later on tomorrow, where we're going to be doing the Tribe Talks. We will absolutely be talking about this further. Make sure you do like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Big shout out to my wonderful patrons. You guys are awesome. I'll see you all in the very next video. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.